We finally got a ton of new information on the brand new Mario Kart coming to the Switch 2, Mario Kart World, an open-world Mario Kart game that looks incredible, with tons of characters, new ways to play, and seemingly filled to the brim with content. But between a lengthy reveal trailer, Treehouse Live gameplay, the official websites, and tons of people getting to play the demo at the Switch 2 experience, there is far more to go over than I ever imagined. So, you know what that means. Ahoy folks, and welcome to another Tris analysis. Rits, grab that magnifying glass, because we're gonna go over as much as we possibly can before the April 17th Direct for the game. This is going to be a long one, so grab yourself a snack, and let's shift into analysis mode. Starting off, let's talk about the characters. So first, let's quickly run through the 24 characters that we already knew about. Mario, Luigi, Bowser, Peach, Yoshi, Toad, Daisy, Rosalina, DK, Wario, Koopa Troopa, Pauline, Waluigi, Baby Mario, Baby Luigi, Baby Peach, Baby Daisy, Baby Rosalina, Toadette, King Boo, Shy Guy, Birdo, Bowser Jr., and Lakitu. And I put Lakitu at the end here because he's actually technically different. In the past few Mario Kart games, it's been a red-shelled Lakitu that's playable, but now it's the green-shelled Lakitu. And now on top of those, we have a few more new returning characters, being Nabbit, Charge and Chuck, Monty Mole, Hammer Bro, Dry Bones, and Wiggler. And then we have a ton of brand new drivers, characters that have never been playable in Mario Kart before, and for many of these, never playable before this game. We have Goomba, Penguin, Rocky Wrench, the Moo Moo Meadows Cow, Parabitty Fishbone, Cataquack, Pokey, Spike, Snowman, Sidestepper, Stingbee, Swoop, Pianta, Peepa, Piranha Plant, Dolphin, Coin Coffer, Cheep Cheep, and Conkdor. That makes for about 50 characters. And in case there was any concern that not all of these would be playable, and perhaps only there to pad out the roster, like an old extra minigame in Mario Party 8, Nintendo Treehouse Live showed an entire knockout tour played as Coin Coffer, Penguin, and Conkdor. So we can rest easy there. All of these characters will be fully playable. And we may even know how to unlock them, but we'll come back to that later. There's an interesting detail about these characters though, and it's that many of them might have been teased in Mario Kart Tour. A lot of the Mii racing suits in that game, some of which even made it over to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, were pretty strange. And in this context, a lot of them actually relate to newly added characters for this game. It might just be a coincidence, but now I'm gonna keep an eye on Blooper and Chain Chomp potentially getting added to the game too, since they're the only character suits left that aren't tied to a driver from Tour, 8, or World. Anyway, the character select screen looks pretty clean. There's 12 characters per page, for single player at least, and in the trailer we can see 4 pages, but that's only 48 total characters, and we've already seen more than that, so maybe unlockable characters are back. And we even see other instances of there being 5 pages, and even 7 pages. And we've seen plenty of known characters and costumes missing from the pages that we get a look at. So this does confirm that unlockables are back, and that the character select screen simply adds more pages when there's more characters. Also, there's this X to sort button down here, which means that you can sort the character select screen. And this makes sense, as you can see a different order in the trailer. In fact, this one is pretty weird, because there doesn't really seem to be any rhyme or reason to this layout. Maybe it's just sorted by most recently played? Or maybe you can really manually sort each character slot. You know, just drop a character you're never gonna play all the way at the end, and then make the first page just your favorites. The characters seem to recreate known renders in their menu slots, but when selected on the right, have a very expressive animation. And thankfully, not while sitting in a cart. We haven't had this since Mario Kart Wii's character select. And during Nintendo Treehouse Live, we can get a look at the character select screen in split screen, this time with some unlockable characters added to the mix. So this further confirms that these characters are fully playable not just transformations, and they get added to the character select screen as well. Now, let's quickly go through all of the missing characters. Characters from previous Mario Kart games that, as far as we know at the moment, aren't here in World. Starting with all 7 Koopalings, which is especially weird since we've seen some of their advertisements return. Maybe they're just gonna be shown off later? For a game touting a roster this big, it's kinda weird for all 7 Koopalings to be missing out. But beyond them, we're also missing PD Piranha, Diddy Kong, Koopa Paratroopa, Funky Kong, Honey Queen, Metal Mario, Pink Gold Peach, Tanuki Mario, Cat Peach, Dry Bowser, Poochie, King Babam, Kamek, Peachette, Dixie Kong, DK Jr., and the crossover characters, being Link, the Inklings, Isabelle, the Villagers, and Rob. Could any of them, or other newcomers, still be here? Well, we still have the April 17th Direct, and a couple of months to release, and that's not touching on the potential for DLC. So maybe there is still hope for any of them. Though I will say, I'm now a lot less confident in crossover characters actually showing up here. Now, let's talk about the costumes, because they're a pretty big part of this too. They seem to be their own character slots on the character select screen, instead of a submenu like in Mario Kart 8. Theoretically, this could mean they each have their own stats, but since you can willingly change between them during races, they're likely just cosmetics. Anyway, characters seem to have a max of 10 total costumes. During the Nintendo Treehouse live footage of Free Roam, we can see a small pop-up over Mario. 10 total slots, with 6 filled in with different looks, his default and 5 unlocked costumes, while 4 others are still locked. So 10 is probably the max that any character can have. But will every character that has costumes get 10? Mario Kart Tour was very unbalanced with alts, for example. So let's go over the costumes that we've seen so far, many of which we now have the names for thanks to the character select screen and more. Starting off with Mario, and we've seen 9 of his alternate costumes. Touring, which is this red jacket, All-Terrain, which is this racing suit, though not quite the racing suit from Tour and Odyssey, but kinda similar. Aviator, which is the same alt from Tour and Odyssey. Cowboy, which has Mario in a 10-gallon hat, black jacket, and jeans. Happy, which is pretty similar to the Tour and Odyssey appearances. Another costume that has Mario in a brown jacket with goggles on his head, which I thought was the Aviator at first, but it's actually different. There's also Sunshine, which is a bit different than how it usually looks, but it does have the Sunshine shirt and the sunglasses. There's also Pro Racer. The name of this one comes from Luigi's costume of the same name. This particular screenshot comes from the Japanese website. He has the Mario Motors logo on his torso and a racing helmet. And then we've also seen Mechanic Mario, which looks to be identical to the mechanic outfit from Super Mario Odyssey. And of course, adding in Mario's default look, that means we've seen all 10 of Mario's outfits. Unless, of course, maybe there's more than this 10. For Luigi, we've seen 7 of his alternate costumes. There's Farmer, All-Terrain, which looks similar to Mario's All-Terrain, but in green, Pro Racer, which is a racing suit, Snowboarding gear, with goggles and an outfit that looks like it's made to last in the snow, but given that it's been paired with Mario's touring outfit, I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually Luigi's touring look. Happy, which looks to be inspired by Mario's, Oasis, which looks fitting to Shy Guy Bazaar. We get a good look at the outfit in a screenshot posted to the Nintendo Today app, and it's likely called Oasis to go with a similarly themed outfit that Daisy has. And Luigi's last costume that we've seen so far is Gondolier, which puts him in a striped shirt and a straw hat. We get another look at the outfit in gameplay in a screenshot posted to the Nintendo Today app. Moving on to Peach, we've seen 8 of her alternate costumes. We have Touring, which is a casual designed outfit with a jacket, denim shorts, boots, and a large bow. This has kind of been the main look they've been showing off for Peach in terms of the costumes. There's also the Pro Racer outfit, which has a crown visor, the Yukata, which is specifically the one from Odyssey with the fire flower pattern, and not the one from Tour. Then there's the Aviator outfit, which puts goggles on her head, a pink outfit with brown gloves and boots, and we've seen this name confirmed in gameplay. Vacation Peach is also here, which seems to be the exact same alt from Tour and Odyssey, as well as the Farmer outfit, which also looks just like it was in Mario Odyssey. There's another casual looking outfit with a blue shirt, pink pants, and a pink bow in the Nintendo Today screenshot, but we don't have a name for this one yet. Finally, her biker outfit from the older games is back. And based on the name of Pauline's similar costume, this is likely called Aero, short for aerodynamic. And notably, there's no longer just a heart emblem on the back. Now it's Peach's crown overlaid on a heart shape. Moving on to Yoshi, who we've also seen 8 alternate costumes for. We have the red Yoshi, which puts him in a racing suit, pink Yoshi, which has some sort of hat and gloves, the white Yoshi, which is casual wear, in a blue scarf and a blue and white jacket, which might be the touring look, light blue Yoshi, which is called Food Slinger and is branded to the restaurant, blue Yoshi, which is a cool biker look, putting him in sunglasses, a black jacket, and a red spiked collar. This is basically just Boshi. Purple Yoshi, which is a fancy look, putting him in a black jacket and a top hat. This Nintendo Today screenshot gives us a pretty good look at it too. Yellow Yoshi, which is called Matsuri, and is sort of a Japanese festival outfit. And orange Yoshi, which is swimwear, giving him a little snorkel and a striped outfit. It's actually pretty cute. Moving on to Bowser, who we've seen 3 alternate costumes for. The first is some sort of engine-like look for Bowser, covering him in pipes and a metallic armor look, and giving him gauges on the back of his shell. This might be Pro Racer, but I'm not really sure. We don't have a name for this one yet. Next is called All Terrain. It adds stripes to his shell and gives him some sort of armor and goggles. And then of course we have Biker Bowser, which looks like a greaser outfit, giving him sunglasses, a leather jacket, and torn jeans. Moving on to Toad. We've seen 4 of his alternate costumes. This one that puts a burger on his head, called Burger Bud. Honestly, that's just hilarious. I kinda love this. Explorer, which is a Toad version of Toadette's Explorer outfit, but notably is not the same as Captain Toad, but similar to Captain Toad. Pro Racer, which is a full suit and helmet for Toad, and Train Conductor, which gives him a matching hat and overalls uniform. The hat has the same emblem as the nearby train, it gives him gloves and bandana, and even some dirt on his head. Moving on to Daisy. We've seen 6 of her alternate costumes. There's Swimwear, which is seen in the key art, Vacation, which gives her a white hat and a striped summer dress, this casual outfit that puts her in a yellow and orange zip jacket and green shorts, which is most likely called Touring, like Peach's casual outfit, Oasis, which puts jewelry in her hair, gives her a different hairstyle, and an orange top. It's fitting to courses like Shy Guy Bazaar, and this screenshot shows the back of the outfit too. There's also this one, which I'm pretty sure was her Pro Racer outfit. It gives her a black hat with a crown visor, but worn backwards, as well as a white and orange outfit. That looks similar to Rosalina and Peach's Pro Racer outfits. And since that's what Rosalina's is called, I'm pretty sure that's what this one would be called too. Finally, Daisy also gets her biker outfit from older games. This time around, it also looks like her hair gets put into a ponytail, just like Peach. And like Pauline's, this is probably called the Aero suit. Moving on to Rosalina, who has 4 alternate costumes currently confirmed. Aurora Rosalina, which was my favorite alt in Tour, so I'm really happy to see it return here. Pro Racer, which gives her a crown visor and ties a sweater around her waist. Touring, which gives her sunglasses, a teal jacket, and black tank top. And of course, like the others, Rosalina's biker outfit from the older games is also here. And like Daisy, it also now puts Rosalina's hair in a ponytail, unlike in the previous games. And based on the name of Pauline's similar costume, again, this is probably called Aero. Moving on to Pauline. We keep referencing her, and finally, here she is. We've only seen one of her alternate costumes, and that's Aero, which is her biker suit. Although it's slightly changed from its Mario Kart 8 design. Now she has a gold ring holding up her ponytail, and the stripes look more gold than white. The upper half of the outfit has also been redesigned, especially around the chest and the sleeves. Moving on to Toadette. We've seen 4 of her alternate costumes confirmed thus far. Soft Server, which puts a big blue bow on the back of her head and scoops of ice cream with sprinkles on her head, as well as giving her white glasses. Explorer, which is identical to her appearance in the Toad Brigade and her outfit in Tour. What's probably called Conductor, and based on this map icon in the screenshot, it looks kinda similar to Toad's Conductor outfit. Finally, we get a small look at what might be Toadette's Pro Racing suit. giving a full suit and helmet for Toadette. Moving on to Wario, we've seen 7 of his alternate costumes confirmed thus far. Starting off, we have what might be Pro Racer, giving him a yellow helmet and jumpsuit. Next, we have this genie-like outfit, which is probably called Oasis. And then we have Wario's biker outfit, which is a bit different than his usual biker outfit used in the WarioWare games, but it definitely builds off of it with the vest. It also gives him sunglasses and a trucker hat. Next is Pirate Wario, which seems to put him in a red pirate outfit, and it's reminiscent of his pirate outfit from Game & Wario. Next we have what might be a construction worker look for Wario, the name of which obviously we don't know. It gives him some sort of hard hat and worker clothes. Next up we have Road Ruffian. The name of this one comes from Waluigi's version of this outfit, which we've seen the name for. It's sort of a Mad Max styled black outfit with a colored mohawk on top of the helmet. Finally, we have this bee costume. We can see Wario with white wings and little antenna, and it looks like a bee costume. Pretty similar to the Bee Mario power-up from Mario Galaxy in its design, even down to being a costume with overalls. You mean to tell me we can have Sting Bee and Bee Wario, but we don't have Honey Queen? Nintendo, bring her back! This is called the Wicked Wasp costume. Strange that it's not just Bee Wario. Moving on to Waluigi, who has 5 alternate costumes currently confirmed. There's Biker, giving him sunglasses and a bandana, what's most likely his pro racing suit here. Mariachi, which gives him a big sombrero and even a little mask. Road Ruffian, which, like Wario's, is a Mad Max styled black outfit with a purple mohawk on the helmet. And Vampire, or should I say specifically, Wampire, as it's called in-game. It's not quite the same as the Tor alt, as there's no hat, but the cloak seems very similar, and it looks like his skin is a pale white too. I kinda love that it's not just Vampire though, they changed it to Wampire. It's just pretty silly. Next up we have Donkey Kong, who only has 1 alternate costume currently confirmed, and that's the All-Terrain, which gives him yellow and red armor, as well as a racing helmet. Moving on to Baby Mario, who has 3 confirmed alternate costumes so far, being the racing suit with a helmet, swimwear, which gives him a snorkel, goggles, and swim trunks, and work crew, which gives him a hard hat and construction clothes and even puts dirt on his face. The name for this one comes from Baby Luigi's, which is confirmed. So, moving into Baby Luigi. We only have 2 costumes for this little guy so far, and that's, like Baby Mario's, a racing suit with a helmet, and work crew, which gives him the hard hat and construction clothes. Moving on to Baby Peach. We have 4 confirmed alternate costumes for her so far, being a racing suit with a helmet, Explorer, which gives a safari-looking hat and clothes, Touring, which is a casual-styled outfit with a big pink bow, and what's most likely Sailor, though it's hard to tell, but it's this pink and white outfit here in the background. Moving on to Baby Daisy, who has 4 confirmed alternate costumes so far, and they're pretty similar to Baby Peach's. A racing suit with a helmet, Touring, which puts a teal ribbon in her hair, Explorer, and what might be a sailor outfit. Moving on to Baby Rosalina with 4 confirmed alternate costumes, which, similar to the previous couple, are a racing suit with a helmet, a casual outfit, which is probably called Touring. She seems to be wearing a small jacket and goggles here. Sailor, which is confirmed and not just speculation. This puts Baby Rosalina in a dark blue sailor outfit. And Exploring, as we can see the same safari-looking hat that the previous baby princesses have. Moving on to Koopa Troopa, who has 5 confirmed alternate costumes so far. There's what might be Pit Crew, which gives him a hat and headphones and some sort of red straps along his shell. Or it could be All-Terrain or Pro Racer, we don't know the exact name of yet. There's also Runner, which gives him a cap, sunglasses, and nice sneakers. This one kind of feels like it builds off of the Koopa Free Running design, and I kind of like it, it's pretty cool. There's also what might be Work Crew, which gives him a checkered shell and a hard hat. And then, there's what's most likely a sailor suit, which has a circular white cap. Finally, what might be his pro racing suit, as seen in the Nintendo Today app. Moving on to Shy Guy, who has 2 confirmed alternate costumes so far. There's Slope Styler, which gives him a blue knit hat and big goggles, making him dressed for winter snowboarding, and what's most likely Pro Racer, giving white stripes down the middle of his outfit and headphones. Moving on to Bowser Jr., who has 3 confirmed alternate costumes so far. There's this Boy Scout design, which puts him in a little hat, bandana, and a bunch of patches on his shell. There's also some sort of racing outfit, probably called Pro Racer, which gives him a visor, gloves, and jacket. And my personal favorite out of these so far, Biker Jr., which is his own biker outfit. I just love that it's called Biker Jr. Anyway, moving on to King Boo, who has 3 confirmed alternate costumes so far. There's Pirate, which we can see in the screenshot, Pro Racer, which puts a helmet on his head that looks reminiscent of the spooky Speedster from Mario Galaxy, and Aristocrat, which gives King Boo a top hat, a fancy jacket, and even a mustache and monocle. This is a crazy cool costume. I love this one. It's definitely a fan favorite already. Next up, we have Lakitu, who has 2 confirmed alternate costumes so far. There's what might be a racing suit, which gives him a white helmet and green glasses, and Fisherman, which has what looks like a Japanese sun hat, black robes, and a spiny shell on a fishing rod. Finally, we have Birdo, who has 2 confirmed alternate costumes so far. Vacation, which puts her in a white dress and sun hat with the blue bow, and Pro Racer, which gives her a checkered bow pattern and a striped shirt. So far, we haven't seen any costumes for any of the new characters, only the originally confirmed 24. So will anyone else get any costumes, or were they just left out for now? Some definitely could, like Pianta or Monty Mole, or Hammer Bro getting the other variants. For others, it might be hard to give costumes to some, like Pokey, Fishbone, and Cataquack. Maybe not everyone will get the same amount of costumes, and in general, not everyone may even get one. The costumes seem to be based on courses and their surrounding themes, or at the very least, there's a set of themes for each different style of costumes. Racing suits for the racetracks, biker suits for the cities, casual outfits that kinda work anywhere are the touring costumes, snowy outfits for the wintry tracks, Japanese-styled outfits for the Japanese temple-looking course, Oasis outfits for Shy Guy Bazaar and the surrounding desert, pirate outfits for Wario Shipyard, explorer outfits for Dino Dino Jungle, train conductor outfits for Whistle Stop Summit, swimwear outfits for beaches and water-based courses, and restaurant and food-based outfits. Just some notable examples, of course. But this likely means that characters may not get any costume styles completely unique to them, such as Luigi's Mansion King Boo, for example. So far, the most we've seen any character have is 10, and we know from Mario's little menu that there are 10 at most for a character. So maybe we know all of Mario's costumes in the game. But who knows? Maybe some will have even more than we've seen thus far. Maybe this little menu actually changes and scrolls to display even more. How would we unlock these costumes? Well, that's tied to a particularly special item. And that's this special food bag item. We finally got a look at what this does. It's definitely a food bag, and it's tied to little restaurants, such as the Yoshi Diner found in a variety of colors across the world, or food-related places like food trucks or vehicles transporting food. They can also be spawned out of vending machines. Anyway, these food bags give the character food to eat. The trailer specifically shows a big burger. Thanks to Nintendo, now I'm hungry and really want a burger. Seriously, that thing is 3 patties tall with thick-cut bacon. Anyway, we're not gonna go over every food we've seen, or I'm just gonna get really hungry. But some other foods include takoyaki, taiyaki, a stack of pancakes, popcorn and soda. They're not automatically used, and they're held behind the player until used, like other items. But they even take up an item slot, meaning you must have a free slot to be able to grab one. They give a nice speed boost, but also makes the character transform into their costumes, presumably into one that has some sort of relation or connection to the food. Or if they're already in a costume, they may transform back to their default look. But this is how new costumes are unlocked. We can see instances of when a new costume is gained, it even displays a little unlock notification. And presumably from this point on, you would be able to select a costume from the character select screen. The red exclamation point is the same as a new unlock in Mario Kart 8, so that's why I'm confident that's what it means here. This also confirms that some characters don't have costumes. We've seen some others like Cow eat food from this item bag, and they only get the speed boost. So not everyone is going to have costumes. More than likely, only the core 24 characters from the initial reveal, maybe a few others. But it is worth noting, in Treehouse Live during Knockout Tour, we can see Baby Daisy eat some takoyaki, but she doesn't transform, and she only speeds up. Does she just not have a costume fitting to this area? Or maybe for some reason, it doesn't always work. In my own footage, we see Pauline and DK eat some popcorn at the Boo Cinema, but they don't transform. This might mean that neither character has a costume for that area. Or, what I believe to be more likely here, DK and Pauline don't have more costumes in the demo for some reason. They'll likely have more in the full game, but the only costumes I've seen for them have been the singular alt on the character select screen. So for some reason, maybe they're being hidden for now. Moving on to the rest of the items, double item boxes are back in addition to normal item boxes. As for the items themselves, there's green shells, red shells, bananas, bombs, which now have a boom effect written over the explosion, bullet bills, which no longer hurt players as it shoves them out of the way, mushrooms, golden dash mushrooms, and we can now see how long it'll last with the timer and the item UI that kind of goes down over time, stars, blue shells with kaboom written over the explosion, super horns, which have a new visual effect, and beep written above the super horn when used, as kind of a clear visual indicator, coins, which still give 2 coins when used, and are now held behind the drivers. So seemingly at this point, we could say that every item is initially held behind the driver, rather than making the character actively hold the item, since we even see this with other items like the bullet bill. Triple variations of items are also back, so the triple bananas, triple mushrooms, triple red shells, triple green shells. The lightning is back, but it's a little different this time. It targets everyone ahead of the user instead of all players, and it practically stops all momentum in the targets. It also has the chance to temporarily change the weather of the track. In the Treehouse gameplay, we can see that it starts raining immediately after the lightning. But the real thing here is that players also don't seem to stay tiny for very long anymore. So the real question is if this makes the lightning any better or worse than before. Moving on, we have the Fire Flower and the Ice Flower, both of which allow you to throw up to 8 projectiles instead of 10, like back in Mario Kart 8 with the Fire Flower. The Ice Flower also functions more like the Fire Flower, rather than how it did in Mario Kart Tour. Hitting drivers covers them in snow, and it makes them temporarily lose control. It's also just not as strong as it was in Tour. The Mega Mushroom is back, and it seems to have its invincibility from Mario Kart Wii, but it definitely doesn't seem to last as long. Though it also appears to give a constant speed boost, so it might be pretty strong. The Hammer is also back from Mario Kart Tour, but now you get to throw it multiple times, and they get thrown out in a line. They also seem to get stuck in the ground after being thrown. The Boomerang is also back, and it works more like it did in Mario Kart 8 than in Tour. Thanks to gameplay, we can also see that the Boomerang now works on a timer like the Fire Flower, rather than specifically getting 3 throws. Although it looks like on average you'll be able to throw it about 3 times anyway. Moving on, we have the Boo, the Coin Box, which is back from Mario Kart Tour, and now you'll have to press the item button to keep hitting the block. The Feather, which is no longer exclusive to battle mode. This allows the player to leap fairly high into the air, which would be great for catching shortcuts, and maybe even dodging some items. We also see that the Blooper is back, and it seems relatively unchanged. But now we have some new items. First up is this Golden Shell, which sends a shell forward down the middle of the track, spawning a bunch of coins as it goes. Eventually, it breaks and drops 9 coins in a circle. And based on the commentary of Nintendo Treehouse, it sounds like this item is called a coin shell. And next up we have this crystal ball, which summons Kamek, who then flies ahead and spawns a bunch of enemy obstacles. We've seen Goombas, Pokies, Cheep Cheeps, and Penguins, among many others. But it doesn't just spawn enemies, it also transforms a bunch of players into that enemy. And it seems this is how new characters get unlocked. We can see Pokey get unlocked here, and Spike, and Charge and Chuck. So, most of the new playable characters we see might be a result of using the Kamek item to spawn enemy obstacles onto the track and transform drivers into them. It would certainly explain why most of them seem like generic enemies that are often found as obstacles on courses, or as nearby spectators, like penguins, cataquacks, fishbones, the cow, Pokey, snowmen, and Pianta, just to name a few. But this raises a huge question. Could any other enemy and spectator found around the world also become playable characters? There's bullies, chill bullies, thwomps and womps, chain chomps. We do see Kamek spawn in chain chomps, so maybe they are playable too. But in one instance, it actually changes the player into Coin Coffer. We've also seen Boom Boom by Bowser's Castle, and even spawned in by Kamek. But Kamek transformed the player into Pianta. There's also Lumas spectating around in Starview Peak. I really hope that Lumas are playable in this game, but we'll just have to see. But perhaps the biggest question here would be for Batadons and Tokotokos. Yeah, if you don't know what those are, that's okay, because I didn't at first either. These are the two Easter Island head enemies from the original Super Mario Land. And we can see they're apparently back for like the first time ever, and are on this course, which looks to be Desert Hills. Backing up a little bit here to the actual Kamek item. The point is, if Kamek transforming characters due to this item is how a lot of new characters are unlocked, then there may just be a lot more of them in the full game. That, and they may take a long time to fully unlock if it's tied to the random chance of the item. So there may be other ways to unlock new characters in addition to the Kamek item. That, and, like Chain Chomp and Boom Boom, some hazards may not necessarily be playable characters, or, at the very least, they aren't unlockable in this demo, so it picks a different random character. Next up, let's talk about some general gameplay mechanics in the game. First up, the coin limit seems to be higher, as we see players holding more than 10 coins during races. We can also see coin stacks in some areas, likely giving plenty of coins at once. The new limit though seems to be 20, as we see the number turn gold when capped at 20. There's plenty of ways to gain coins now though. If you hit a question block during a race, you'll also gain some coins. This can be done by jumping below it with a trick. And getting rescued by Lakitu still makes players lose 3 coins. And speaking of Lakitu, his rescue can place you in the middle of a gliding section now, instead of just bringing you back just before it or just after it. And that's a pretty big deal. Tricks can be done whenever in the air, even multiple times. And it seems like you could do a lot of tricks if you have the time. Also, if you land on another character, you can bounce off of them and do even more tricks. One of the biggest new features of this game is the ability to grind on rails. Similarly, we also have wall grinding and jumping, both of which allow the player to charge up a speed boost just like drifting. Speaking of charging, holding the drift button down without turning makes the cart charge up a speed boost anyway. And this is how you charge up a jump. So this is how players can jump up onto higher rails to grind. This is of course also much smaller than the jump you would get from using the feather item, which is a fairly large jump. In fact, we even see this jump get used in the reveal trailer. Look at how Mario's wheels are bent, and the sparks behind and under him. We see him go from this state to a jump towards the railing, which is how he jumps on to grind. I wonder how useful this will actually be in practice though. I mean, it's basically getting a jump with a trick and a speed boost at any point. That might be pretty fast, and maybe even tie into the meta of this game. Or maybe people will find that it's not as useful as, say, sneaking. The gliding mechanic in this game is also pretty different. The ramp to activate it is still the same design, but gliders are no longer used. Now, vehicles transform into little planes, growing wings coming out both sides. It's hard to tell if it's much different mechanically though. What is different mechanically is the fact that underwater racing is gone. Now, vehicles turn into boats and ride on the water's surface. I'm mostly curious how different this feels to just driving on the road. It seems to me like it might be a little bit slower and probably also have some harder drifting, but we'll have to see in practice. Next up, there's this scene from the trailer involving a truck. Birdo drives into a large truck, and the truck then takes part of the race. Maybe like an environmental-based bullet bill, rather than using an item. Sadly, we've not really been able to see this in action in any footage of the gameplay demo, so I don't really have too much to say on it, other than I'm sure it's pretty destructive. Moving on, the big glowing arrows are back for some courses, but they do look a bit better than they did back in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's Booster Course Pass. Holding items behind you, defensively or not, is now automatically done, rather than from holding the button down, which I think is overall a pretty good decision to make. Entering barrels on cars launch you forward, but they don't send you into gliding mode, so you don't get to fly after this, it kinda just shoots you forward pretty quickly. One of the more interesting things I've spotted is this item car. It has a big twist key on the top, and it quickly drives around the course throwing out items and item boxes for players. It seems to come and go randomly, and can even drop stars and crates, which likely have items inside of them. I'm not really sure what the trigger for this appearing is, or how often it could appear, but it seems pretty cool, and definitely like a good catch-up mechanic, as long as it doesn't appear too close to first place. There's a lot of objects around the courses that can become obstacles thanks to the physics. We see lots of destructible objects just by driving through them. Benches, signboards, guardrails, and more. It might be possible to dodge items like red shells while gliding. We see this red shell nearly hit Peach, then she does an aerial trick to the right, and it misses her. It reminds me of how red shells worked back in Double Dash. Finally, in terms of general gameplay mechanics, in my original analysis I mentioned the potential of a sort of attack button. Well, unfortunately, there's no sign of it. Instead, we see the vehicles are able to tilt at pretty extreme angles. It also sounds like this affects item usage, as you can't use items until your cart stabilizes. This is a good balancing feature, as it's not as punishing as spinning out from items, but it does temporarily limit your options. Next up, let's talk about the vehicles. On the selection screen, we can see that you can change the applied decal with the plus button, more on that later. And the Y button will let you view stats and details. And the stats are changed from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now there's only 4. Speed, acceleration, weight, and handling. No more traction, since vehicle customization is gone. You can also press the X button to change settings and controller. Here's where you can change smart steering, auto accelerate, auto use items, tilt controls, vertical camera, probably for normal or inverted, and horizontal camera, probably for normal and inverted. Now these are interesting because you couldn't actually open up this menu in the demo, so players were stuck with the smart steering option on during their demo. But good to see that's not here for the full game, you can indeed turn it off. And the auto use items setting is probably just like the one in Mario Kart Tour, where when you hit a new item box, if you still have items, it'll automatically use them to replenish with new items. Anyway, enough about the options and buttons here on the vehicle selection screen. Let's talk about the vehicles themselves. We've seen 39 vehicles so far. Let's start with the new vehicles. There's the standard cart, the plush buggy, the zoom buggy, the rally cart, the baby blooper, the chargin' truck, the standard bike, the cute scoot, which is a moped with a few different designs, the funky dory, which comes in different colors, the rally bike, which is a green bike that looks to match the rally cart, the Mack Rocket, which looks like an inward drifting bike and comes in different patterns, the Bowser Bruiser, which kinda looks like a standard ATV, the Billdozer, which is a Bullet Bill themed cart, the W-Twin Chopper, which is a Waluigi version of the old Wario bike, the Fin Twin, which is a koi fish looking bike, the Big Horn, which is a tractor-like cart with horns on the front bumper, the Roadster Royale, which looks a bit like the Circuit Special, and it also comes in different colors and patterns, the Blastronaut 3, the Hot Rod, which is a cart I've pointed out before with the Fire Flower-shaped engine, and the Carpet Flyer, which is a magic carpet-themed cart. Those are all the ones that we know the names of, but there's still a bunch of other new vehicles here, so let's keep running through them. First off is this Koopa Clown-like cart. We see Bowser Jr. in this 3-wheeled vehicle. There's a large wind-up key in the back, but we're still not sure what the vehicle itself is called. It's kind of a half-dome shape, and it definitely seems themed to Bowser Jr. Next up we have the snowmobile-like cart that we saw in the original trailer. Next we have this bike that resembles a locomotive, seen with Toad in a conductor outfit. Next we have a cart that looks like a toy construction truck, driven by Baby Mario. We also see it driven by Explorer Toadette, where we can see it from the side. There's also this bright lime green cart that, from the front, reminds me of the Jade Hop Rod, due to its sort of frog-like design. But we get a good look at it with Gondolier Luigi in Nintendo Today, and it definitely doesn't really have the frog-like shape otherwise. It seems like a pretty normal-looking car, actually. Next up is this bright teal cart with large triangular tires. We see it used by Farmer Luigi, and I have to imagine it's an ATV, even though the character sitting in it seems more like a bike. Next, we have this bike that's made out of warp pipes. And then we have this black and red cart themed to Boo. It has a little golden Boo hood ornament, and the wheels look like reels of film. So the whole cart is likely themed to the Boo cinema course that we've seen quite a bit. Next up is this bike that's just an orange radio with a tape player, buttons, and a little antenna. Next up is some sort of ATV or snowmobile with flames. In the trailer, we can see Cowboy Mario riding on it, but it doesn't look like any other vehicle that we've seen thus far. And unfortunately, this is really the only look at it that we get. Next up is an ATV shaped like a lobster. The front wheels are the claws, and we can even see a little tail on the back of it. Finally, we have some sort of dark three-wheeled ATV with purple wheels. And in this particular shot, we can see that it's driven by Fishbone. Okay, those are all the brand new vehicles, but what about the returning ones? Well, we know quite a few of those too. We've got the pipe frame, which is just iconic and in most Mario Karts nowadays. The Biddy Buggy, back from Mario Kart 8. The Tiny Titan from Mario Kart Wii. The Bumblebee from Mario Kart 7. The Cloud 9 from Mario Kart 7, which now has cute little spiny shell wheels. The Bee Dasher, back from Mario Kart DS. And the Dolphin Dasher, back from Mario Kart Wii. More than likely, we're going to see at least a few more vehicles than all the ones here as well. 39 is a pretty good number though. For reference, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has 41 vehicle bodies, so we're already pretty close to that. And even if there's a few other new vehicles, or especially some more returning vehicles, we're definitely going to get higher than that number. Next up, the courses. Talking about the courses in this game is going to be interesting, because technically, I'm pretty sure there's 32 courses in the game. But since this is an open world Mario Kart, with lots of in-between sections between the established courses, it's gonna feel like there's many more than that. So as an open world Mario Kart, the structure of these courses and how we access them is very different than what we're used to. I never truly thought this was going to be an open world game, and instead just thought we'd see another iteration of the usual Mario Kart formula. But they're not iterating, they're evolving. And that's most evident in the courses we see in this game. And because of that, this section might look a little different than you're expecting it to. I'm not going to try and figure out the exact layout of every course because of the open world nature, especially since the surrounding areas are designed to fit in the general aesthetic and design of the nearby courses. Instead, as I identify each course, we'll take a look at some notable details in each one. Besides, we're mere days away from the Mario Kart World Direct, which I'm sure is going to have an even deeper dive on many of these courses, so it feels a little pointless for me to extensively do so here. So, for now, let's focus on identifying the known courses we know are here, starting with the new ones. And first up is Mario Bros. Circuit, the very first course of the game, and the first one that we saw in the original reveal. My original video breaking down how I thought it would work ended up being very wrong, because of the open world aspect of the game. And honestly, I'm totally fine with that, because this is far more exciting. The core course is the sort of broken figure 8 shape that we've seen on signs, meaning the large Route 66 and diner that we saw before are part of the open world, connected to Mario Bros. Circuit, but not part of the course itself. But here's the mini-map for Mario Bros. Circuit. Next up is Crown City. This is a big city with a huge golden tire with a crown on top as its landmark, and seemingly its namesake. There are some construction sections, and through the different routes of the course, you'll find yourself on the roads, in the alleys, and on the rooftops. And I emphasize different routes, not just because of the open world nature of the game, but because the course appears in two separate cups, with different icons, meaning it might be two entirely different courses, just in the same locale. Think like Woohoo Loop and Makawoohoo both being on Woohoo Island in Mario Kart 7, or like how the city courses in Mario Kart Tour often had 2 or 3 different versions. By looking at the mini-map during the final lap here, we can see what one of the general course layouts is going to be. And it's fairly simple in terms of layout, but pretty cool how it has players climbing up buildings to jump to the main landmark of the city. The other version of this course, set at night by default, has a pretty different looking mini-map as well. The starting line is by the shoreline, rather than the middle of the city. Next up, we have Whistle Stop Summit. This is a mountain with a railway running all over it, and a train station just below. Players drive around the mountain, nearby bridges, and through the station, mostly following along the train tracks, which they can grind on, Through more than half of the track, players can choose to follow the railroad or the nearby road, which can take them on different paths depending on which they choose. The fastest option seems to be to alternate, rather than just sticking to one or the other the whole race. Next up, we have DK Spaceport. This is a huge course that has players drive from point A to B in a sectioned course, rather than a loop with laps. And based on what we see in Grand Prix mode, the course itself, without the intermission of getting to the course, looks to be about 5 sections. The course properly starts here, as we can see all of the starting positions, and this mini-map reflects the full experience of the course, with the finish line up over here. Anyway, this course has players drive up to the spaceport while the rocket is on it, and ascend up the structure in a game of classic arcade Donkey Kong, played against a giant Robo-DK, of course. The structures are designed like the girders from Donkey Kong, and there are constant barrel obstacles to avoid in each section. There's also lava bubbles and barrels of oil at the turns to avoid if you're trying to shortcut through. Each section also poses different hazards and obstacles, such as this portion, which doesn't have any barrels, but tons of grind rails to jump between to speed through the segment. Or this section, where the road is thinner and the walls are close enough together that you can jump between them. This course is actually just really cool. Next up is Starview Peak. This is a library and observatory reminiscent of the Comet Observatory from Mario Galaxy, placed atop a large wintry mountain. This course is filled with Galaxy references, and is reminiscent of Rosalina's Ice World. We even have a bunch of Lumas spectating the race here. The course starts here at this starting line, as indicated by the starting positions. Looking at the mini-map of the course, it's got a fairly simple layout. Much of the course is divided into 2 colored sides, much like Ice Ice Outpost. It winds and climbs to different heights in a way that would surely be anti-gravity had that mechanic come back. The road leads into a quick gliding section, which leads into a magical, floating, freezing river to drive through. With the view of the aurora in the sky above, it's quite beautiful. These snowflake rings provide a dash when driven through. All I'm saying is, you can likely find me posting photos around this course with Aurora Rosalina on launch day. I love it. Next up is Faraway Oasis. This course appears to be a sprawling savanna filled with all sorts of animals, like giraffes, elephants, bison, and zebra. We only really have 2 quick shots of the course and its surrounding locale, meaning we can't quite piece together what the course itself is like, unfortunately. So, moving on to Peach Stadium. This overall seems like a fairly simple course. The minimap shows a bunch of turns, and it seems to be this game's version of our typical Mario circuit, aka the course that features Peach's castle in the layout, or in this case, a stadium themed to Peach's castle. We can see it not only has the usual stained glass artwork on the castle, but also a version that displays near the track of Peach in her biker suit. Moving on to Salty Salty Speedway. This looks to be a Venice-like city, where players drive through the canals as the main roads. There's a large statue of Birdo here as well. The race seems to start here under this bridge, and from here we can see the course minimap. Players can also use boats as ramps for jumps. Next up is Great Question Block Ruins. This is set in a huge ancient ruin floating up in the sky. The race starts just outside, before players drive in. Taking a look at the minimap, it seems like a more complex track. Lots of winding twists and turns, split paths, and gliding sections. Also, a few sections held together by chains that you can likely grind on. Next up is this Japanese mountain course. The setting reminds me of Autumn Mountain from Paper Mario the Origami King, with tons of orange leaf trees and Japanese architecture to drive through. Next up is Dandelion Depths. This course is multi-layered, as we can see from the minimap, and it reminds me of Steam Gardens from Mario Odyssey. There's lots of construction-like architecture to drive down into the cavernous depths filled with water and dandelions growing, before working all the way back up to the start. Next up is Boo Cinema. This is an old movie theater, open 24/7, 365 days a year apparently. The starting line is held up by towers of giant reels of film. The minimap makes it look pretty simple, but this course is actually pretty cool. Players drive to the lobby, then into the theater itself. We can see Boos sitting in the crowd, before players leap directly into the screen. The visuals take on an old film filter, as players drive around a large reel of film, which depicts a shocked vacation Peach. Behemoth also appears in the background here, along with plenty of other Boos. After completing the loop, players glide back out of the screen and out the exit of the theater before looping back to the start just outside. This course is really cool, and thematically might be my favorite Boo-themed course. Next up is Dry Bones Burnout. This course is reminiscent of Bone Dry Dunes. It's a wasteland sort of area filled with tons of giant bones to drive on. This one is closer to Bowser's castle though, so there's lots of lava too. The course starts under a giant skeleton, and the mini-map makes it look like a fairly large course. There's also sections where the bones are decorated, reminding me of Day of the Dead. Maybe this is where Waluigi gets his mariachi costume. Next up is Acorn Heights. I'm not 100% sure of the name of this one, but it's the name I've been told by a few friends. This has players start on a large tree, with the starting banner being made out of a huge leaf. There's some small toad houses nearby, making this place feel reminiscent of Wild Woods. The minimap for this course makes it look pretty big. Players drive up to the top of the tree, pass through it and the little village inside, then glide to a nearby little canyon, which eventually loops back to the base of the tree. There's a bunch of different routes to take here, and large acorns to avoid as a hazard. Finally, we have Bowser's Castle. It looks huge in this game, sitting atop a volcano that players must glide up to reach. There's plenty of tight spaces and gliding sections, and the minimap reflects that too. And gotta say, gliding through a tunnel of lava into a dark thundercloud is really cool. Not to mention, driving through the mouth of the giant lava Bowser that we've grown accustomed to seeing in the Bowser's Castle courses. This course looks intense, in the best way possible. That's all the brand new courses we've gotten a look at. So now let's take a look at the retro courses. First up we have DS Desert Hills. We don't really get to see this one in action, so there's not a lot to say, but it definitely seems to have gotten a nice glow up. Next up is 3DS Shy Guy Bazaar, which now has a palace in the background themed to Daisy. It kinda seems like this game establishes Shy Guy Bazaar to possibly be in Sarasaland, which is pretty cool. Next up we have N64 Wario Stadium. It finally happened. The last N64 course has finally been made into a retro course, and it looks pretty different here. And the minimap shows it's definitely different to the original, but it still looks to play pretty well. Next up is DS Airship Fortress. Being close to Bowser's Castle, the glow up on this course is very exciting. It looks like a lot of fun, and I can't wait to hear the remix for this one. Next up is DS DK Pass. This course has been turned into another snowboarding course, making it sorta similar to Wii DK Summit, but it looks to keep a lot of its original traits. Next up is Tour Sky High Sunday. Admittedly, I wasn't very excited to see this course back at first, but after seeing it in action, they definitely changed it up to make it more interesting. Just the layout and flow of the course as a whole seems much more engaging and fun now. Next up is 3DS Wario Shipyard. The underwater section is gone, and now you ride on top of the water. And the final gliding section is gone, and now just launches the player into the water below. Otherwise, it's actually pretty faithful in terms of its layout. Everything that was previously underwater is now just above water. Next up is SNES Koopa Troopa Beach. At least it looks like one of the SNES ones, if not a combination of both into one course. We can just barely make out the colored SNES walls in the course preview. The starting line also depicts the Koopa Music Festival, and that's pretty cool. Next up we have Mario Circuit. And you'll notice it's here in the retro section and not the new section, because it's not a new Mario Circuit. It's actually a combination of several of them from the SNES game, specifically a fusion of SNES Mario Circuits 1, 2, and 3, and driven in that order at that. One lap for each, and the minimap also reflects this. Gotta say, this is a pretty cool idea, though I wonder why it's only 3 of them. Next up is GCN Peach Beach. This entire beach section, from the shoreline with the cataquacks to the shortcut over here, and even this rock structure up ahead, are just like the original game, though most of the nearby signs label the area as Peach Resort. But in a different shot, we can even see the fountain section up by the main buildings. So it feels like this course has been well integrated into a larger location, but is still largely Peach Beach. Next up we have Wii Toad's Factory. We can see it on the map and hear its theme in the trailer. And we get a bit of gameplay to show the item boxes on the conveyors, and even the final stretch through the mud is the same. It's pretty faithful, and that's great. Next up, we have GCN Dino Dino Jungle. At first, I thought this was a completely new course themed to dinosaurs, especially since the course has signs for Dino Dino Laboratory all over the place. I thought maybe this is just a sequel to Dino Dino Jungle. But no, in fact, a lot of the layouts match the original. The geysers just before the starting line, the left turn, and the inner laboratory section matches up with the original cave. The long path on the left with the geysers, and on the right, a shortcut-like path. But instead of a big hole, now it's filled with grass and more dinosaurs. So this course has had quite the reimagining to fit in the greater world, making it less of a jungle and now more like Jurassic Park. And that's really cool, actually. Next up is Wee Moo Moo Meadows, which now features a huge statue of the cow on a bike. And that goes hard, honestly. Though this no longer really feels like a race through a simple farm. Now it kind of feels like it knows it's an iconic course in Mario Kart history. Also, there's new nearby ramps to get you on top of the barn over here, so there seems to be new shortcuts and new routes through it as well. Finally, we have N64 Choco Mountain. This might be the course that has changed the most. Now it feels contextualized into the SNES Choco Island courses, and it also feels a lot more like a stadium course, like DS Wario Stadium. But the minimap matches up pretty well. There's also new Charge and Chuck enemies here. This is definitely much more of a reimagining of Choco Mountain, but nonetheless, it's here. And as a little bonus, we can see the SNES Vanilla Lakes and SNES Choco Islands here as well. They are not separate courses though, and are instead part of the big open world, and you can drive through them in Grand Prix and Knockout Tour. It's kinda cool to see them just integrated within the world. Though, the fact that they're here but aren't separate selectable courses is kind of odd. So we see 7 cups in the Grand Prix menu, with a special cup missing. If that were here, we'd have the usual 32 total courses. So perhaps it's just hidden and not unlocked yet. As a result, we don't even see special cup courses on the map, with no Rainbow Road for example. Except, apparently, Nintendo did show the Rainbow Road, but we've seen absolutely no gameplay of it yet. Maybe that'll show up in the Direct. I'm also pretty sure we can see some battle maps integrated into the open world as well. We can see what looks to be Big Donut from Mario Kart 64 by Bowser's Castle, and we even get a little bit of gameplay driving through it. There's also what looks to be Thwomp Desert from Mario Kart Wii over here. It's cool that we can drive to the battle tracks as part of the routes to different courses, and I'm sure we'll see this be the case with other ones as well. Next up, let's talk about the Grand Prix mode. We've gotten a look at 4 of the 7 known cups. I'm not going to be trying to sort the courses into the remaining ones, but I do think aside from Rainbow Road, we've seen just about every course in the game. But more on these cups and Grand Prix as a whole, courses are no longer divided into new and retro cups. They're just simply grouped into cups of 4 courses, regardless if new or retro. The Mushroom Cup is all new, the Flower Cup is all retro, and then from there, they start getting mixed together in the Star Cup. It's a format we saw with the Mario Kart 8 DLC, both the original and the Booster Course Pass, so now we know it's here to stay. After picking your cup, you then choose your engine class, which is usually done much earlier than this, but now it's the last step. And the usual ones seem to be here, being 50cc, 100cc, and 150cc. Though there's no Mirror and no 200. I suspect 200cc will be here as an unlockable, but will Mirror? Mirroring the entire open world sounds like a lot. So maybe instead we'll see the return of Extra or Reverse. It should be possible this time around. Courses in this game now have intermissions. The first race in the Grand Prix is the 3 laps around the course as we know it. The rest of the races are then going to each track from the previous. There's 2 laps to get to the next track, then the 3rd lap is 1 final lap around it. Though some courses have more laps than this, like DK Spaceport. While these intermissions play a big role in the structure of Grand Prix normally, we've seen lobby menus that suggest you can turn off intermissions, at least for Grand Prix or Versus races. It's not selectable in this menu, as this is for Knockout Tour, which is like all intermissions basically. Anyway, back to Grand Prix, it seems that post-Grand Prix celebrations are back, which were gone in Mario Kart 8, instead playing highlight reels. These take place on one of the courses from the Cup. For the Mushroom Cup, it's in Mario Bros. Circuit, and for the Star Cup, it's in Starview Peak. I want to take a moment to also look at the point distribution, since with 24 players, you figured it'd be pretty different, but it's actually not too different from what we had before. 1 point goes to 24th place, 2 points go to 23rd and 22nd, 3 points go to 21st through 19th, 4 points go to 18th through 16th, 5 points go to 15th through 13th, 6 points go to 12th through 10th, 7 points go to 9th and 8th, 8 points go to 7th and 6th, 9 points go to 5th and 4th, 10 points go to 3rd place, 12 points go to 2nd place, and 15 points go to 1st. A perfect round of Grand Prix, getting 1st in all 4 races, still ends up with 60 points, just like we had back in Mario Kart 8. And when winning 1st place in a Grand Prix, and very likely a versus race if they're here, the winner gets a special crown placed on their head, which has a shine sprite on top and a globe inside of the crown. Next up, let's talk about Knockout Tour. This is a new gameplay mode here in Mario Kart World. Players race through 6 different courses, mostly using the intermission routes, in one long burst. At each lap or section, the bottom 4 players are eliminated from the race. So, it's a battle royale mode, basically. And as we've seen from the demo gameplay, these can get pretty intense, but they seem really exciting. The player currently in 1st gets a special crown with a red flame on top, and this will constantly change between whichever player is in 1st. We can also see that each new section has a bunch of item boxes for players to get, and when players get knocked out, they can automatically spectate the rest of the race. We see 8 different rallies instead of cups: the Golden Rally, the Ice Rally, the Moon Rally, the Spiny Rally, the Cherry Rally, the Acorn Rally, the Cloud Rally, and the Heart Rally. I won't be going into the structure of each of these too extensively, but I'm pretty sure we've had a look at each of these already, at least from the menu. And the weirdest thing is that none of them seem to factor in the unlockable Rainbow Road. So would a new rally get added when that gets unlocked? Or is that not part of the Knockout Tour in general? Next up, let's talk about free roam. One of the other biggest features of this open world Mario Kart is the free roam mode, which you can dive right into from the main menu, without needing to go through any other menus. It also seems to be the lobby system for online or local play with friend functions. Through the demo event, we saw plenty of people roaming around in free roam while waiting for Knockout Tour to start. Anyway, in free roam, courses have dedicated collectibles. There's question blocks, P-switches, and special golden coins. Also, these symbols above the courses. Are these unlockable decals or something? There's 10 in this course, but less in Wario Shipyard, with only 5. Backing up a little bit to the P-switches though, they're actually found in several areas. Sometimes multiples in the same course, not just the surrounding area. Presumably, something special happens when they're hit, but as for what that is, that remains to be seen. That's probably something they're going to go into in the Direct. Of course, you can also see the different character costumes here too. You can still drive around in free roam, eat food, and unlock new costumes here too. But could we unlock new playable characters here too? Or are they just locked to the Kamek item? We've also seen binoculars in different areas during free roam. Maybe players will be able to make use of them to survey the surrounding area. I think free roam is hiding a lot still, that we're definitely going to see more of in the upcoming Mario Kart World Direct. And one such thing is that there might be some sort of story mode, or a greater goal behind the free roam mode. There's this area just outside Crown City that really stood out to me. Home of the Rainbow Fragment. It seems oddly specific. So, wild theory, what if there's a story mode of this game, and it has some sort of tie-in to this game's Rainbow Road? Maybe there are rainbow fragments to collect in each region, and that's how Rainbow Road gets unlocked. Next up, I want to come back to courses for a moment to ask a pretty big question. How does picking courses work in online play? Whether it's like a versus race with friends or general online, any of that. And we might have our answer in the game chat trailer. This is most likely an online friend lobby, and it shows off selecting a course and the options you get when choosing one. So in this case, do you want to play Shy Guy Bazaar? Or do you want to play the intermission from Shy Guy Bazaar to Airship Fortress, to Wario Stadium, to Choco Mountain, to Mario Bros. Circuit, or to Desert Hills? You can pick any course with a direct route nearby. This is actually pretty cool. And you also get the option to pick random. So it looks like you choose a course, and from there, you pick if you want to play just the dedicated course, or one of the intermission routes to a different course, and then the game randomly chooses from all the options people picked. So in case through all of this video, you've been worried about the dedicated courses being playable on their own, and worried that they're all just like Grand Prix where you have to race to them each time, don't worry. They are still here as dedicated courses. And suddenly, with this, seeing how you can select the intermissions between courses, the course count for this game feels like it skyrockets. If there's 32 courses in the game, and each course has at least 3 intermissions like this to also choose, we're looking at what will feel more like at least 128 courses. So, in a way, this game may have even more selectable courses than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and its Booster Course Pass. Just looking at this map with all the roads connecting all the courses, if every single one of these roads is a selectable intermission, then the course count for this game is insanely high, and that's awesome. Next up, I want to touch upon Battle Mode, and not the battle tracks like earlier, but the battle modes themselves. Because from a lobby menu in Nintendo Treehouse Live, we might actually be able to tell what battle modes are in the game. We can just barely make out some icons up top here. This second one is Knockout Tour, so the first one must be Grand Prix or Versus Race or something. But the last two look to be Balloon Battle and Coin Runners, so those may be the only 2 battle modes in the game this time around, and I'm sure we're going to see them for the first time properly in the Mario Kart World Direct. Next up, let's take a look at the main menu for the game. We can see single player, multiplayer, online play, wireless play, and this little Yoshi sticker. Based on the notification down here, it seems like a way to view stickers or decals tied to achievements, since we've actually seen a few of these now. One for Banana Oil, unlocked during Treehouse Day 1, and one for Brittle Jewelry, unlocked during Treehouse Day 2. Both of these are rewarded for driving a total of 300 kilometers. We're just unsure if it's in total, and the decal you get for each achievement is random, or if this means 300 kilometers driven in the specific course. Plus, there's also the Yoshi one on the main menu, for racing 35 times in total, so it's pretty clear that these are achievements. And in Nintendo Treehouse gameplay, we can see that you can press plus to change the decal on your vehicle. This also seems like setting a badge for your profile in Mario Kart Tour, as we see the chosen decal is set with the player icons in races. But back to the main menu, next to that we have this icon, which might be quick travel for free roam, and therefore setting a different locale as your main menu location. And this one might be a quick guide for controls and more. Moving on, let's talk about the music. We've heard quite a few songs that don't seem to relate to any known courses in the game. And they're not just the original songs, but new versions of them at that. I won't be showing all of them here, as many of them are pretty hard to make out, but between what I've heard and many have pointed out in the comments to my gameplay video, there's Vancouver Velocity, which you can hear in the Star Cut, moving from DK Pass to Starview Peak.
Your rocket starts?
Yes. Eat my snowflakes!
Alright, we're gonna keep doing this. How am I in 4th again? Alright.
Yeah, I told you Rosalina was my nemesis.
A remix of DK Summit, which you hear when leaving Starview Peak.
Okay,
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Good job, you two.
Eat snowflakes.
No, what did you take? Okay.
Oh, come on.
Try to slide.
A remix of Sunshine Airport, a remix of DS Mario Circuit, a new version of Toad Harbor during my gameplay video. As many people pointed out in the comments, Wario Land music. I'm not really sure where in the game that would play, unless it's part of a new version of the Wario Shipyard theme, perhaps. Steam Gardens from Mario Odyssey getting a remix, which could also be the course theme for Dandelion Depths. And the one that I find most notable is the Piranha Plant Lullaby from Mario 64 being heard in the menu.
Okay, let's go to...
We're going to be taking a look at the Star Cup.
And we'll do 150.
150cc. And as
Are you
can
up
see-
to the task?
Oh,
And that's just some of them. Clearly, there's a lot of course themes that are going to be heard in this game, even if the courses themselves aren't here. So perhaps all these extra themes are to add music variety to the different intermissions. But what if there was something greater to this? The radio bike had me thinking. What if this game had a music player in the form of a radio that you could listen to anywhere in free roam? Sort of like the music player in Mario Odyssey, or setting lobby music at Smash Ultimate's arenas. It would certainly work with the road trip vibe that the game has, which fits with the idea behind all the different foods and costumes. Finally, let's take a quick moment to go over a few special details. One of the big sponsors in this game is Luigi Tires, but Waluigi modified the tires on his bike to say Waluigi Tires instead, which is hilarious. You can see the little WA written on here. Batadon, one of the enemies from Super Mario Land mentioned earlier, even has an in-game sponsor, Batadon Aero Parts. So the name of these enemies is even the same. This does make me lean towards the idea of them being playable, as most characters with some sort of sponsor, especially new ones, are playable. But not all of them, since the Koopalings don't seem to be back, and we have Fuzzy Battery back yet again anyway. Just makes you think at least. Next, I'm pretty sure hitting an enemy with a shell makes the same sound as killing an enemy in Super Mario Bros. We can just barely hear it in this treehouse clip.
Oh, that's... Yep.
Turn into it.
Oh,
Yep.
that's...
Just makes the game feel more Mario, getting little sound effects like this. Finally, when a blue shell hits in the water, it creates a shockwave that affects other players, and it can likely be tricked off of, so perhaps other items interact with the water like this as well. And that is everything I could find to talk about with Mario Kart World. There was a lot to go over, way more than I ever expected, to be honest. But what do you think? Did you spot something that I missed? I wouldn't be surprised if you did. Make sure to let me know in the comments. Mario Kart World looks incredible, but the coverage doesn't stop here. Of course, I will be streaming the Mario Kart World Direct on April 17th, and right after, immediately go into a live streamed analysis with you all. And there will be plenty more Mario Kart content to come after that as well, including a bunch when the game comes out. So with that, thank you all so much for watching this massive analysis. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, leave a comment, and consider subscribing for plenty more coverage on Mario Kart World. And if you become a channel member, you can get into my community Discord server, early access to videos, and more. But that'll do it for this video. Until next time, farewell everyone, and thanks for watching. Special thanks to my channel members at the Co-Star Luma tier: Azure Pip, Thales Caesar, GameXplain, and Kiss My Flapjack.